All right, motherfuckers. We're going to do something different today. We're going to talk about two of wrestling's most polarizing figures. That's right. And you don't have to wait long, and you don't even have to guess to know how I feel about these two cocksuckers. I'm talking, of course, about Bryan Alvarez and Dave Meltzer. Now, I'm going to just start off by saying that recently I was on the YouTubes, you know what I'm saying? And I saw a video. Usually I just hear the audio once in a while, and I listen to it ironically. I listen to it just to see, just to grow my hate of these two douchebags. But this time it was a video, and I saw Bryan Alvarez. Now, this, in my opinion, this guy's appearance did not match his voice. I kind of thought of this guy like almost like, I don't want to say a Brendan Schaub, because Brendan Schaub is like a real man, but I thought of him as like a bigger guy, maybe like a buzz cut, like a tougher guy than Dave Meltzer. But this guy, oh my God, this guy looks like a cuck. This guy just looks like a guy that you see, if you saw him at Starbucks, you'd be like, oh, get away from me, you little shit, before I slap you and steal your latte. More like, one of those pumpkin spice lattes, am I right? Anyways, this guy is just a douchebag. And Dave Meltzer, he's like the worst, one of the worst people in the history of wrestling. Now, let's start with just how these two fucks talk about wrestling. They talk about it as if they understand a bit more than the likes of me and you. Why? Why do they? Why do these two jerk-offs know more about wrestling than me and you? Why? Because they watched like Hirosaki Nakamoto wrestle like Hiyotoshi Duzaroto in like 1993 in like whatever, the Korakuen Hall. Who gives a rat's ass about those guys? Nobody cares about those guys, right? They're talking to English-speaking audiences that have no idea about like dream team drama wrestling or whatever the fuck that garbage is, right? They defend the worst things and they bury the best things. Now, that's fine. It's an opinion. Have it. Go ahead, you little shits. But when neckbeards and virgins like look at these two guys as if they're these two guys that understand like wrestling at all, they don't get it wrestling at all, right? But people look at them like they do. This creates what I consider to be a toxic culture, motherfuckers. That's right. This entire idea of like Vince McMahon is out of touch, Vince McMahon is like senile, stems directly from the counterpoint that people like Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez somehow know more about what good wrestling is and what's good for wrestling as an industry than Vincent Kennedy McMahon, the guy who pretty much created, and let's be real, invented wrestling as we know it today, right? Everything you see is Vince McMahon's doing. AEW, TNA, ROH, New Japan, all of these are just Vince McMahon ideas, right, that have been morphed and transformed into inferior products for the most part. Now, needless to say, recently WWE has failed completely. Vince McMahon can't do it all by himself. But the mere suggestion that Vince McMahon doesn't understand wrestling or no longer understands wrestling is foolish. Vince McMahon primarily is a businessman. And as a result, what he cares about is money, right? And WWE is doing better than it ever has because of their complete shift in product centricity. They have gone from just producing one show a week, Monday Night Raw, to 2 shows a week. And then from there, they have grown exponentially into a multimedia franchise. Their video games are every year now, and they are produced by big time studios. They license actual musicians for their video games. They've created a network, which has been a huge success by every metric. Their merchandising has never been more successful. They have expanded significantly. They have expanded into territories such as Saudi Arabia, and more importantly than Saudi Arabia motherfuckers. They have expanded in charities. They have expanded in TV deals like the one with Fox. They have upped their game significantly as a business. That has come at an opportunity cost. For all of you that don't know what opportunity cost, that's when you give something up, right, in order to achieve something else. They've prostituted their integrity, and they've prostituted the Attitude Era and actual good, edgy wrestling, which generated millions of views, in order for a customer base with a higher customer value, right? A lifetime customer value. You get a kid now who likes John Cena, and that kid will be at WrestleMania 40 when John Cena comes back and wrestles, I don't know, Adam Cole or something, right? That's what business is. AEW and TNA don't do that because they don't have the resources to do that, right? They don't have the capacity to have a network. They don't have a library. They don't have property rights, intellectual property rights. They don't have relationships. They don't have any of these things. That's why Vince McMahon does what he does. It's not because he's lost touch. The people that have lost touch are the Dave Meltzer fanboys who think that like a grown man coming out dressed as Princess Jasmine, that's Kenny Omega, you fucks, is entertaining stuff. It's not. It's stupid, right? Or even worse, the same grown man wrestling an 8-year-old girl. They think that that's amazing. Or Orange Cassidy. What the fuck? Like, Vince McMahon's out of touch? What about the people that created Orange Cassidy and allow him to wrestle? What about them? They're not out of touch? Get the fuck out of here. So, people like Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez talk with the competency of morons, but with the ego of like the two voices of wrestling, and they're not. Just because Dave Meltzer says that a match has 9.5 stars doesn't mean it's a 9.5 star match. What did the match accomplish? What did Okada versus Kenny Omega accomplish? Fuck all. It accomplished nothing. Kenny Omega had a forgettable title reign, and the superior wrestler, motherfuckers, is the one that eventually got the belt again. It didn't matter, right? Now, you could argue that this got eyes on New Japan, right? But that wasn't the point of the storyline. That was just because of Dave Meltzer and people listened to him. That's the only reason why we have any of this crap now. So the fact is, Dave Meltzer doesn't understand what makes a good wrestling match. He thought that Andrade versus Johnny Gargano was a 5-star match. Now, to be fair, I enjoyed that match thoroughly, primarily because Andrade, the superior wrestler, beat that idiot Johnny Gargano in a competitive match with some good spots. The problem with that is that there was no storyline whatsoever in that match, aside from the ongoing, like, 5-year storyline of, can Johnny Gargano do it? Every time this guy has a match, he could be wrestling like friggin', I don't know, who's a jobber, like fucking Kona Reeves. He could be wrestling Kona Reeves, and the story of the match will still be, can Johnny Gargano overcome these odds? Yes, motherfuckers, of course he can. He always does. It's the same exact thing. Like, ultimately, at least, he always does. He's always positioned as this, like, guy who can't do it and doesn't. He is Cena as well. He is NXT's Cena, except he sucks, and he's, like, 5'3". That's the only difference. And Dave Meltzer thought this was, like, a 5-star match. Whereas, for example, John Cena versus AJ Styles, a real 5-star match, where John Cena won his 16th title, was not given the same respect. That match had everything. Not one botch. Cena did more moves than Kenny Omega has done his entire career, or that Nakamura has done in 10 careers, right? AJ Styles knocked it out of the park as usual. He's amazing, right? And John Cena won against the guy that beat him clean to win his 16th title after doing 2 consecutive AAs. Which, say what you want. The AA, I'll agree. Not the most impactful finisher, but is it really any different than the one-winged angel? It's the same concept. Kenny Omega just puts him in an electric chair and then curls him up into like an attitude adjustment type slam that he pretends drops him on their neck, but he doesn't. It's on their back always, if you watch carefully. So that match was incredible. It told a story. You had this guy who had finally become champion after having an entire career elsewhere, right? This guy who came and did what he was supposed to do, become champion. And you had Cena, the GOAT, finally defeating the guy that beat him, right? Suggesting implicitly that WWE still kicks TNA's ass and still kicks New Japan's ass. That's an actual storyline. Can Cena win his 16th title against this arrogant guy who got off on beating him up? This guy who had his number, if you will, right? And not just anybody's number. He had John Cena's number, motherfuckers. That's a guy that's lost like 10 times clean in his entire career. So that element of the storyline of why I should care about this match did not exist in Johnny Gargano versus Andrade. It did not exist in any of the Okada Kenny Omega matches. Why the hell would I care if Kenny Omega or Okada wins the match? It will have no implications. Everybody knew Okada was going to become champion very soon again, right? Kenny Omega was never positioned as the star of New Japan. He was positioned the same way. At best, he was positioned like the same way that a Randy Orton was positioned in like 2010, where, yeah, once in a while Randy Orton is going to become champion. Once in a while he's going to beat Cena, one way or another. But at the end of the day, we all know who the A-list is there, guys. It's John Cena, and in New Japan's case, it's fucking Okado from TNA. So Dave Meltzer, and by extension Bryan Alvarez, seem to not understand this fundamental, important element of wrestling as a medium. It is there to tell me a story. It is not there so I can see a guy do 50 knees to one guy only for the other guy to do 5 clotheslines and win. That's not what good wrestling is. Good wrestling is not Hiroki Goto fighting like, I don't know, Tatsuya Naito, whatever the fuck he fought, right? That's like in a meaningless throwaway match. Who cares about that? Like, nothing in New Japan matters, right? There's no storylines whatsoever, like, really, if you really think about it. No storylines, right? The whole Bullet Club storyline was good when AJ Styles was there, and then it pretty much died out. They completely dropped the ball with the whole Tama Tonga having the opportunity to be like the leader and actually having a fleshed out like Bullet Club feud. But that's mostly because the Elite left and just pretty much screwed New Japan out of that, what a feud that was pretty much building up for arguably years. So there you go. That's that about New Japan. Dave Meltzer, Bryan Alvarez, these guys just don't get it. They think a good match is someone doing like super kicks all the time and a fan service move named after Dave Meltzer. That's not good wrestling. Good wrestling is, I'll tell you what good wrestling is. One of the greatest, in my opinion, mid-card feuds in the history of wrestling. Val Venus versus Goldust. Not Dustin Rhodes, not the natural Dustin Rhodes, but real original Goldust. Back in like, what, 98, 97, I don't even remember. Maybe 99. But probably before 99. And basically the story of the match was this. Terry Runnels cheats on Goldust, the inferior man, with the physically superior and more attractive porn star Val Venus, right? Just think about this. This makes me want to laugh right now. She cheats on him like on TV, right? And Val Venus goads Goldust for weeks at a time, saying basically doing what they're trying to do with Rusev and Lana, except with 2 interesting characters, right? Why the hell is Lashley even like, provoking Rusev? Like, they have no history together. But in this case, it made sense because Goldust is this guy who is weird, right? And Terry Runnels was a hottie, right? So the subtext there is, how did this weird ass guy who dresses up like an Academy Award get this hot ass woman? And more importantly, how can this weird, effeminate transvestite type satisfy this woman, especially when compared to her side piece, the Big Valboski, who's presented as this awesome like ladies man, right? You felt bad for Goldust because in that moment, Goldust represented like the real cuckold, if you will, the guy who is himself, the guy who does the right thing, who loves his wife and thinks that she accepts him for his little eccentricities. Of course, this is played up to 10 because it's wrestling, right? And his wife turns out to be a skank and cheats on him with the guy that he should have been afraid of this whole time, right? The match was amazing. And the match was amazing because it told an actual story. Val Venus was beating his ass. Terry Runnels was cheering Val Venus on. And in the end, Goldust, being the face, got the upper hand when Terry Runnels accidentally distracted Val Venus and the referee. Val Venus turns around and Goldust just kicks him right in the balls and rolls him up 1, 2, 3. That was perfect because he kicked him in his dick. The thing that ruined Goldust's marriage, Val Venus's dick, is where he was kicked for the feud to end. That's a 5-star match because it tells a story, it gets the people engaged, and I remember it like 20 years later. Do you understand what I'm saying? Christian versus Chris Jericho, that feud that involved Trish Stratus, that was incredible. That was a oh my god moment. Like, Christian and Trish, I never saw this coming. I mean, I was a kid, but I never saw it coming, right? Who the hell cares? Oh, Kenny Omega finally did what he was meant to do. He beat Okada, and now he's going to drop the title like 2 months later. Who the fuck cares? Nobody cares about that. So that's the problem with Dave Meltzer and Alvarez. They think that they know more than me and you, and they don't know more than me and you. At the end of the day, it's all subjective. They call me the hater, and I hate a lot of these things, but there's a lot of it that I like. There are things in, believe it or not, motherfuckers, there are things in New Japan that I like. I like, what's the guy's name? The old guy, Suzuki. I like that guy. That guy looks like a beast, man. If I saw that guy in the street, I'd be like, fuck, this is a bad dude, man. I would not want to fuck with this guy, right? And that guy should be champion, not Kenny Omega. And that's some like weird ass like multi-hair colored dweeb. That guy has no business being champion. It should be Minoru Suzuki, who looks like a killer. This guy looks like he should be eating people like Okada. Like if Okada and him were to fight in real life, who'd you take? Like even ignoring Suzuki's like MMA background, to some he's an MMA legend. Like ignoring that completely, who would you take? Who would you take in a fight? Suzuki, of course, because he looks like a guy that can kick your ass. And he's got like the personality that goes along with it. When he cuts I don't even speak Japanese, but when he cuts a promo, you can tell this is a man filled with hate. And he, like just like your boy, motherfuckers, and he hates his opponent and wants to hurt them. It is consistent with his character. Now compare that to a goofball like Braun Strowman, right? That's what I'm saying. There are good things in New Japan, but Dave Meltzer isn't pointing out these things that are objectively good wrestling or good ideas, right? Like whatever the fuck his name is now, Lance Hoyt from TNA. That guy looks like a star in New Japan. He acts in an arrogant way. He's intimidating. Davey Boy Smith as well. They act and feel like stars. But instead, I'm supposed to like be enticed by Yoshihashi, according to Dave Meltzer. I'm supposed to be enticed by the Young Bucks or Sanada. What the fuck would I give a shit about them when you have actual potential stars there? You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying, right? Dave Meltzer will continue pushing this agenda that what he likes is good and what he doesn't like is not good. If Kenny Omega versus fucking Okada is a 7-star match, and if fucking Andrade and Johnny Gargano is a 5-star match, and Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker, or for example, Triple H versus Stone Cold, 3 Stages of Hell, or Triple H versus Mankind at Royal Rumble, or I don't know, let's think of some other good ones. Kurt Angle versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania, I think 25. If these matches are not 5-star matches, are you fucking kidding me? What would you rather watch? Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle in arguably the greatest wrestling match that's ever been had, like in ring, right? Or why have that? Why have that when you can see Andrade and Johnny Gargano? Or even better, why have that when you can see Mike Elgin versus Naito? Who the fuck cares about these guys? That's the problem here. The problem here is this, that there is a clear bias when WWE, who obviously has the best wrestlers in the world, when WWE puts on what are clear 5-star matches, and I will admit, they don't do that very often now, but they have in the past. They have put on matches that will be remembered forever, right? Like Kurt Angle versus Shawn Michaels. Something like that. Or Kurt Angle versus Benoit in that 30-minute submission Iron Man match. That was incredible. Or another Kurt Angle versus Benoit match for the WWE title. Or fuck, man, Matt Hardy versus Edge. Was there ever a better story than that? No. That's what wrestling is, you know. Even fucking CM Punk versus Jeff Hardy was more interesting. At least it made sense. Jeff Hardy, degenerate, drug addict, alcoholic, against a straight edge guy who tells him he sucks, right? Who hasn't been in a situation before where someone with a holier than thou attitude tells you how to live your life and judges you for it, and you want to whoop his ass? That told a story. Every culture can appreciate that, right? I don't really care about the honor between Hiroki Goto and Nakamura. What the fuck? Suzuki, and who's going to cut whose hair. Obviously, Suzuki's going to get his hair cut. He's already basically bald. Like, think about these things, guys. Don't be stupid. Don't be sheep. Don't listen to people like Alvarez and Meltzer. I understand the entire shtick of Meltzer and Alvarez is that they're like thinking out of the box, you know, like they're not the guys that accept what WWE says is good as being good, right? And that's why you get all these like weird ass terms like, oh, you're a casual or you're a WWE fanboy. Everyone is a WWE fanboy. That's what brought you to the dance. You didn't turn on TV and what the fuck would you watch New Japan? You didn't turn on TV and see like Nakamura and friggin' like Nakazuki and you're like, wow, what an entertaining show this is. No, dog. What happened was you turned it on either in the Attitude Era or something like that, and you saw Stone Cold, The Rock, or maybe before that, if you're an old bag, maybe you watched Hogan, or perhaps you're a WCW guy when you saw real stars, Booker T, Sting, like real wrestlers, Scott Steiner. Look at that guy. That guy looks like he can tear you apart. You know, that's what I'm saying. That's what wrestling is. The mainstream thing is typically what is good. Now, once in a while, TNA and AEW will of course do good things. Usually when they have a WWE guy involved, like Jericho. But typically, WWE and Vince McMahon are the ones that dictate, that set the pace, that set the bar for what wrestling is, right? They do Money in the Bank, TNA does Feast or Fired, right? I'm sure AEW will have their own stupid ass like Money in the Bank derivative. That's what I'm saying, right? WWE sets the pace. And Vince McMahon knows what he's doing. The only difference is that now he is a businessman with a much bigger empire. Instead of growing it like he was in the Attitude Era and competing directly with WCW, who had their own strategy, he now essentially has a monopoly and he will do whatever the fuck he wants. And best believe, do not count on Vince McMahon. He's only in his 70s, motherfuckers. He's sticking around. Don't count him out. If AEW even gets remotely a little bit of traction, he will ramp it up and he will create a much, much, much better product. That's what's going to happen. So, then what is Dave Meltzer going to say? Oh, Will Ospreay had a 5-star match against Yoshihashi. Nobody gives a shit about that. Like, these guys, Will Ospreay, Yoshihashi, 99% of, like, fucking New Japan would be on 205 Live or at best NXT. Let's be honest, man. Like, Juice Robinson? What the fuck is that guy? That guy was a jobber in NXT, man. He was an NXT jobber, and now he's like a big deal. He's not a bad wrestler. I won't say he's a bad wrestler. It's just that because he went to New Japan, he can now be considered big time because he's obviously a capable athlete. He can do the moves. But do not think that because Roman Reigns has 3 moves in WWE and John Cena is John Cena, that if they went if John Cena went to New Japan Pro Wrestling, he would be having 20-star matches against anybody because he is a superior athlete and he understands wrestling better than people like Kenny Omega. He can do all that shit too. Of course he can. He doesn't do it because he doesn't need to, right? Hulk Hogan, by far the greatest wrestler of all time. Arguably, maybe you might argue that Ric Flair and Cena are up there if you're being objective, but it's pretty much Hulk Hogan. If you look at Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, and John Cena, none of these guys were amazing in the ring, right? Ric Flair just did like a million chops, figure four leg lock, the little chop block thing he does to the leg. He didn't have that many moves, right? But it's not about that. Like if you watch The Rock versus Hulk Hogan, that match is garbage, but it was one of the greatest things ever to happen in wrestling because you have Hulk Hogan, man. That's why this guy can put his hand to his ear and people lose their shit. Stone Cold can say what and he can put the word what over. Jericho on the same caliber. The Rock, same caliber, right? These guys are real stars. Even like Bubba Ray Dudley, like even like people of that caliber in the Attitude Era, like would be main eventers. If Bubba Ray Dudley was like 33, he was in AEW, he would have been champion already after Jericho maybe. That's what would have happened, man. There is this weird obsession now with people that suck and pretending that they're better, all to propagate this ridiculous theory that WWE has lost touch. They haven't lost touch. The fan base has changed. They had a fan base of a young, hip college crowd of normal college people that got laid and partied and had fun. Then, on purpose, they switched that crowd to a more family-friendly, child-oriented crowd. All the adults, bar a few of us like myself, the majority of cool people stopped watching wrestling. And what happened was the bronies came in. And the bronies, of course, they don't understand the medium of wrestling because they started watching after WrestleMania 29 or 27 or whatever, right? They don't understand what wrestling is. They really want to see Kevin Owens become champion because he reminds them of them. He's a fat dude who's not good on the mic, even though he pretends he is, right? Jericho carried him completely during their run. There's a reason why they were paired together, motherfuckers. That's what I'm saying. They're like, no one has lost touch except the new fans think that what they think is superior. They think that the rest of us, that good wrestling is stupid crap like Darby Allin. Like, people think that that guy is interesting. He's not interesting. He sucks. First of all, Darby Allin's like 22. I guarantee you, in 10 years, when Darby Allin looks back at himself now, and he does his stupid poses with his like half painted face, he's gonna be like, man, that was some gay shit that I did. That was some cringy ass shit. Now I'm 32 or 33, whatever the fuck he's gonna be in 10 years, and now I understand how much I sucked and why people like the hater said I sucked. You know, this is gonna happen. And meanwhile, all you guys will say, oh, what happened to the old Darby Allin? I liked it when he had half face paint. Now he's like, maybe he'll gain some weight or something. Now he's like a boring wrestler in like NXT or something if he ever makes it that far. This is gonna happen. You people will turn on him so you can turn it on everybody else. And WWE has made the critical error of pandering to this crowd. They have pandered to this crowd, in my opinion, way too much. People like Kevin Owens shouldn't even be in the company. Becky Lynch should not be champion. You have real stars in the making there, man. You have Lacey Evans. You have Bianca Belair on NXT. You have like people with actual charisma, and you push Becky Lynch, who is just cringy, just like doesn't come off as cool at all. She's hot. She's a hot broad. I gotta give her that. But they don't even accentuate that. Instead, they just make her this serious douchebag. And this is all because of people like Bryan Alvarez and Dave Meltzer, who have created this culture, this toxic culture where what sucks is now cool and what's cool now sucks. That's the problem. Just imagine for a second, in the new WWE game, Becky Lynch has an overall rating of 90, motherfuckers. 90. China has a rating of 87. Now imagine if, I don't know, around 2001, when China would do the entrance with a little bazooka thing where she would shoot into the crowd. Imagine if she was interrupted by Becky Lynch. Imagine just what would happen from kayfabe-wise and real-life-wise. JR would say something along the lines of, oh, this redheaded young lady must have a death wish, coming up to China like that. And China would pedigree her in the middle of the ring and pin her clean. That's what would happen. It's a no-brainer what would happen, right? Imagine if Seth Rollins interrupted like Triple H in his prime, or interrupted Kane in his prime, or fuck, if he interrupted Chris Benoit. Imagine what would happen, man. They would destroy him, kayfabe-wise and real-life-wise. That's why when all you nerds were like, oh, Stone Cold's going to be on Raw, I think the Fiend should go in there and give him the mandible claw. Are you out of your fucking mind? The Fiend should give Stone Cold the mandible claw? Why would Stone Cold be afraid of his goofball? Stone Cold would, like, what should happen is the Fiend comes out to the mandible claw, Stone Cold stunners him right then and there without even being touched, and pours a beer over his monkey ass. That's what should happen, right? Stone Cold wasn't afraid of The Undertaker and Kane. You should be afraid of Bray Wyatt? Are you nuts? That's the problem. You see something, you latch onto it, you say it's a good character because nobody has characters and gimmicks anymore. And you're like, oh, but the Fiend, I want the Fiend to be champion. I want the Fiend to be champion. The Fiend would make a great champion. You know, he's mysterious and like, oh, Bray Wyatt does such a good job with it. This is all like the Dave Meltzer generation who think that like gimmicks are something like that, and who think that good wrestling involves dumb shit like 15 super kicks and effeminate men pretending that they're wrestling. That's what they're doing. They're pretending. They wrestle like they're playing a video game. That's what they do. Like, you see that idiot fucking Ricochet, Dave Meltzer was like, oh, this was amazing. He, in some throwaway WrestleMania match, he broke up a pinfall with a standing shooting star press. Why the fuck would anyone do that? That's stupid. That's dumb, man. Fire this guy. That's what I should do next. I should do like a roster review of WWE and just kind of talk about who they should keep and who they should fire. Maybe they can send them all to AEW, and Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez can jerk each other off while all of you watch on like Pornhub or something, you fucking beards.